time over here now.
It's 5 o'clock in the most powerful city in the world. It's time for the Guy Benson Show Happy Hour, brought to you by the Finnish Long Drink. Finland's most popular alcoholic beverage has come to America. Visit thelongdrink.com. And now, here's your host, Guy Benson.
Happy hour time here on the Guy Benson Show, our final hour of 3 on this Tuesday. So glad you're listening. Thank you for that. GuyBensonShow.com, the website. Podcast free every day on demand when the program ends in just about an hour. Email us, gbs@fox.com. Follow us on social, Guy Benson Show. You can follow me as well, Guy P. Benson. This radio hour brought to you by the Finnish Long Drink. We are big fans. Love it. Please drink responsibly always. 21 plus only always. thelongdrink.com. But with us from our New York headquarters is our dear friend and Fox News cultural icon, Kennedy, host of Kennedy Saves the World, at Kennedy Nation on social. Kennedy, a delight.
The delight is mine, Guy Benson.
The delight is mutual.
Happy to be in your presence, even if it is through the ether.
Yes, but it counts, and I hear your voice, and it brings me joy, and I want to ask you on a personal level, as much as you want to share, because you were making an observation the other day, I saw you in New York, about your wedding planning process. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I'm very much looking forward to this coming summer in a very, very beautiful place, which is rather hard to get to, but will be worth it. And you were just talking about kind of your chill vibes heading into this one, and where some people get into bride or groomzilla and micromanagement and all of that stress. You're kind of no stress island timing this thing and like, you know what, whatever happens will be great. Walk us through your mentality and this process.
Well, the nice thing about having a second wedding is, really the idea of perfection in your first wedding, that is what you strive for. You want to have the day that is the ideal. And having been married and now being in this serious relationship, I know the difference between a wedding and a marriage. And the point here is to celebrate our marriage and our union with the people that we love most in the world. And, will people remember the flowers? Will they remember the brand of champagne and wine that they sip? No, but they will remember the feeling. And so the most important thing for us is creating a great feeling. And how do you do that? Like, of course, we want good food, but we will leave it up to the venue.
Yeah, the professionals. It's exactly. A good place, right? They're not going to do a bad job at a place like this.
No. And it's like, I want a nice gluten-free cake, a dance floor, a DJ, and, the people that we love, a small group of people around us, and everything else will fall into place. And I know people, they kill themselves wanting to have like the perfect favors and, things at the table and all of this flurry of perfection around them. And my feeling is so many things can go wrong that don't aim for perfection. Trust the process. And, that's what we're doing. And, we have.
And also trust the people, right? Because it's often about who's present with you.
Yes.
Right? That will make or break something. And I know this is a very curated small group, very honored to be a part of it. And I'm sure the alcohol will be plentiful. I'm confident. I'm sure the food will be delicious. I'm confident. One thing that you might, and this is just, I'm curious based on your MTV pedigree and your passion for music, is a playlist situation more along the lines of something that you would micromanage, or is that also just like
no, the playlist is important. The playlist is one area and we are taking input from our friends and family, which is something we've done at a 4th of July party in the past, is everyone submits 3 songs that they love for 4th of July. And here, it's 3 songs that you want to dance to at a wedding.
Oh,
and so, and we are taking input from everyone and every genre. And, we will have the final edit, but people in our orbit fortunately love music. And, all different kinds of music. So it's always fun to see what people select.
I'm kind of thinking on my end, I'm going to start brainstorming. Definitely one Billy Joel. I've got a song already in mind.
Nice. I love that.
Then probably one at least millennial pop hit that's age appropriate for me, like high school, college, just out of college. And then either an additional millennial pop hit or back to a classic rock. Those will probably be my three, but get back to me on that. But I love this crowdsourced idea.
Yes.
Are there certain songs that you would put on a do not playlist? Because my parents tell the story. They had a band at their wedding, and they've been married, for decades. They've had a great marriage. And it started with actually kind of one of those picture-perfect weddings, as far as I've heard. Of course, I wasn't there. But they had a band. It's apparently very good. And they had gone and watched the band to make sure that they did a good job, at other venues. And they're like, yep, you're hired. The one thing is we don't want you to play. And it was a very popular song at the time. That was one of their staples. And the band opened with that song at their wedding. They opened with it.
What's the song?
Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog. And it's sort of like, I don't know, did they not make that note and forget? Or
maybe they were stoners and they were like, I know they said something about Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
They love the bullfrog,
They
man.
must love it because people love it when we play it. So we should, and they said it so many times, obviously we have to play it.
You made reference to your really famous 4th of July parties out in Los Angeles at your beloved house in the Palisades, and we know all about what happened there early last year and that ongoing ordeal that you and your neighbors and that whole community is still dealing with collectively to this day, and it's taking forever for all sorts of reasons, and it is playing into politics in that region. Of course, we had Spencer Pratt on this show just days ago. He joined us talking about his decision to run for mayor of Los Angeles and talking about the fact that a lot of people have just dismissed him as this, reality show villain from the early 2000s and how that's not really who he is and what he's about. And his passion came through very strongly. He lost his house to the fire. So did his parents. But he said it's way beyond just the fires. It's all this other mismanagement. And whatever you think of him, he was, I think, very focused, quite informed, and speaking the language, I would imagine, of a lot of Angelenos who are just sick of the mess that the professional left politicians have created in that city. That's my positive spin on it. I also recognize reality, which is we're still talking about one of the bluest cities in one of the bluest states, and even though he's running as unaffiliated, he has been associated with Republicans in the past. They're going to use that against him to the hilt. Is there enough dissatisfaction, Kennedy, for a potential disruption election in LA?
I've never seen a moment that was more ripe for a big, shocking election. And that was after seeing Gray Davis recalled when Arnold Schwarzenegger won the governorship back in 2003. And I think, you're seeing a moment where it's not just the people in Altadena and Pacific Palisades who have been displaced. They have suffered so much loss. And it's the people who were not millionaires, the people living in the condos that burned down, the people living in inherited homes. Their insurance is about to run out. So whatever money they were getting from the insurance company to rent a place, that's gone. So they have had to make mortgage payments on homes that are either uninhabitable or no longer exist. And they're essentially going to get kicked out of wherever they're renting. And they are going to be forced to settle for pennies on the dollar with these horrific insurance companies. So you have a lot of dissatisfaction. And then, in addition to that, you have people who are seeing more homelessness, more traffic, fear about the Los Angeles Olympics and how the city government can screw that up, high taxation from the state, barriers to entry for businesses, crime, carjackings, things like that people have not put behind them. They're very much top of mind. And it's a hard sell that the ultra-left progressives have made the state better. So you really need someone rational who's got a personal story to tell. And, I think the challenge for Spencer is really learning about and understanding the other aspects of the bureaucracy that need to be tackled, including things like pensions and schools and, fire service and police officers. And I think he will do a good job of learning all of those things because he's obviously a smart person. He's a passionate person. And the city has never had a greater need for a rational disruptor to come in, clean house, and fix as much as he can.
Kennedy, from California politics to digital hygiene and mental health, a study I want to get your reaction to. I think it's really fascinating from a sociological standpoint. That's coming up. It's the Happy Hour on The Guy Benson Show. Keep it here.
America is listening to The Guy Benson Show.
Wonderful friend Kennedy is with us. It's the Guy Benson Show Happy Hour. Kennedy, I want to ask you about something that I saw that was very interesting, and it was a tweet from David Daines, who's a guy doing a year unplugged of no screens. And he was highlighting, related to this, and I'm not sure exactly how he would tweet away from a screen, maybe he's completed the year, but he was sharing the results of a Stanford study that paid 35,000 people to quit specifically the meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram, for 6 weeks. So a month and a half, and you're not on those social media platforms. And across the board, the result that was very clear was overall levels of depression dropped, levels of anxiety dropped, happiness increased. Women, younger women in their 20s, on Instagram in particular, saw the greatest emotional gains within those 6 weeks. And I just wonder what you make of that, because I think we are getting to a point where, as a society, we all recognize that the saturation of screens is bad for us and is addictive, and we are being fed algorithms to addict us. And even those of us who know it aren't really necessarily changing our behavior, or are slightly, or thinking about what to do when it comes to rearing and raising kids and that sort of thing. But here is, a widespread study with thousands of people in it, just 6 weeks of not doing these particular things on your screen was so helpful to mental health. I wonder, when you hear data like that, what does that say to you in terms of just like personal decisions and habits? And then where does it become appropriate, or does it ever become appropriate, for government policy to get involved? Because I know that's a separate question, especially from a more libertarian standpoint that you have.
I don't know that this is the function of government, and that could be incredibly problematic for people who need to be on screens for, potentially life-saving work. But as a culture, I do think it's probably healthier to put the pressure on ourselves to back away from the screens. And, I do see younger parents like you learning the mistakes of people in my generation allowing kids to have phones too young. And, I don't think there's a parent my age who would say, yeah, I wish I had given my kids phones sooner. It's like, I wish I had given them flip phones, because they were in New York City. I wanted them to be able to get a hold of us. But man, it's like and even putting parental safeguards on the phones wasn't enough, because my younger daughter would go over to a friend's house and her friend created a Snapchat account for her, and she was not allowed to have Snapchat. And it was my older daughter who knocked her out, which, there's great utility in that. And I couldn't believe what was going on. And so I called the other girl's mom, who, became incredibly defensive. And I was like, hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm worried you don't know what your daughter's doing on Snapchat. You think it's okay and innocuous, but she didn't have any safeguards on her daughter's Snapchat account. And, then by virtue, neither did my daughter when she would go over to her house. Right. And, it's like That is one of the toughest things about parenting. It's not other kids, it's other kids' parents that can be, give you the greatest heartburn.
Yeah, like undermine either directly or even indirectly the choices that you're trying to make to raise your own kid. It's all the many fun things I have to look forward to as my kid gets older. I will say, just from a government standpoint, I am fully on board with banning phones in schools. Like, I am totally fine with the government coming in and saying we're not doing phones in schools. I think the data is so overwhelming. We've overcorrected so badly. I think, like, you drop your phone off at the beginning of the day, you get it at the end of the day, and just mental health, educational outcomes, all of that.
Writing pen on paper.
Pen on paper. I am in favor of all of that. I think when it comes to your private life outside of school, then, government getting involved, I'm much, much more skeptical of. Finally, relatedly, because we're talking about mental health issues, I saw these statistics. This is from the U.S. General Social Survey. The percentage of younger people diagnosed with some form of mental health problem. So it's not necessarily like severe mental illness, but anxiety or what have you, all the way down to much more severe things. And these were whites under the age of 30, so white people under the age of 40, and they chart the percentage of people who have been diagnosed with some sort of condition on mental health. And then they also break it down by political viewpoint, from strong Democrat to weak Democrat to independent to weak Republican to strong Republican. And there is just a very clear, at least, correlation that by far the group with the highest percentage of mental health issues are strong Democrat young people. These are specifically among whites. And then the strong Republican group is the lowest number, 15% as opposed to 56% among strong Democrats. And then the other group, sort of like leaning one way or the other or neither, they're clumped together right around 35 to 40%. But hardcore Dems versus hardcore Republicans, there is a gulf there. And I wonder, is that because you just have healthier, happier, younger people if they are raised to be conservative or Republican, as opposed to all the neuroses that go into leftism and the tribalism? And if you're not doing all the woke stuff, then your friends turn on you. Is that a true phenomenon, or is at least part of it the idea that it's almost culturally expected on the left for you to have anxieties because of all the terrible things happening in the world? So it's like almost performative to some extent. Where do you come down on that, Kennedy? 1 minute.
I think that the left has to sell hysteria and fear in order to make any electoral inroads. And, the people who gravitate toward that, the people who operate in fear, they're the ones who are more likely to identify and vote that way. And then in addition to that, you've got, you are lauded for, talking openly about your mental health struggles in those spheres.
Right. Having some sort of struggle or grievance or victimhood is something that is very much prized.
There is currency there, yes.
Right, on that end of the spectrum as opposed to the others. So I think there is a factor. Very wise words. And somewhere that I expect to have little to no levels of fear or hysteria will be Kennedy's wedding this summer. We will keep you posted on all of the signposts along the way to that.
It's going to be a banger, Guy.
Glorious day. I can't wait. Kennedy, we love you. Thank you.
Love you, Guy.
You are the best thing on the radio.